All right, very good afternoon to one and all. So now we're going to look at the analysis of the verbal ability paper in your mock 18. Uh, well, the paper basically started with three easy passages. In fact, the last passage was not extremely challenging, although it is on a moderate to high level. The first three passages were easy, so I would expect out of these three passages at least 10 questions to be correct for you. And in the verbal ability section, out of the eight questions there were, I can take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. The two questions that I found difficult were para summaries, two para summaries. Third para summary was pretty simple. So leaving these two, out of the other six, I would expect you guys to get the other six correct, but let's take five as a good thing. Now, on a basic level, 15 questions could be correct in this paper, getting you a score of 45. Now, even if we assume that you've gone wrong in 2 to 3 questions at max, yes, somewhere around 36 or so should be an achievable score in this paper. So, again, we're not going to comment on the percentiles and all because it's going to depend varily. But for now, the 36 or 37, or around 30s, mid 30s is a good score in this paper. Uh, let's quickly start off with the first passage. Now, if we are looking at this passage, basically what's he trying to tell us? He's trying to tell us that uh, some researchers are looking at life from or in another source. And unlike what was previously believed, that we need these planets to be around or very close to the sun so that they could receive the energy. Nowadays, we are trying to go forward into finding exomoons of planets which could radiate the heat from the sun themselves, right? So we're not looking at life in that particular planet per se, but we're looking at life in the moon of such kind of a planet because we get direct light from sun and radiation from the planet as well. Okay, so that's the whole idea behind this particular passage, right? Now, if it were me taking this paper, I would highlight these certain points as a mental note over the others. The first thing is that we know there are a lot of giant planets which have potentially host moons capable of supporting life. And for me, the most important part over here is host moon supporting life. Okay. And then we have about potential moons telling biosignatures, giving me biosignatures. Yes. And about the Kepler's telescope, we need to know about the primary goal. Yes. And basically, we don't need to know a lot, just this much. The primary goal of Kepler is to identify planets that are in the habitable zone of the stars, right? So if you take this part of the idea also, that's more than enough. Now, over here, terrestrial rocky planets are prime target because life found them to be geologically and atmospherically similar to Earth. So similarity is there, but again, this is something that you can remember. It's not something that you'll have to note down. Another place to look at is that the many gas giants identified during Kepler mission, while not a candidate for life themselves, Jupiter-like planets in the habitable zone may be harbor rocky moons called exomoons. So if you look at this, Jupiter itself is not rocky, but they have rocky moons. I think one of the questions speaks about that, where a lot of people might have gone wrong. So again, this is another small point that you could note. So let me just change the color of all the points that I think you should know. Maybe yellow would be visible on this. So this is one point that I'd like you to make a map of. This is the second point. This is the third point. So if you observe, I'm at max taking one idea from that entire paragraph. The same thing that we've done in our main idea classes, summarization classes, when you're taking one idea from that entire paragraph, you're condensing that paragraph to get an idea. Yeah. And again, clearly observe that I've given off on all the facts. I'm not taking any of the facts into consideration. It's only the ideas that we are bothered about. Okay. So, like that, if you proceed forward, you can see that most of the ideas are repetitive throughout the passage. Okay, except that how they have found life to be more prominent in these parts. Okay, so let's move to the first question now. I think this video is blocking my view, so I'll just remove the video part for now. Yes. The first question asks, none of the following about exomoons can be inferred from the statements given in the passage except. Okay. Now, what does this mean? This means the only thing that can be inferred from the passage about exomoons. Yes. So clearly, if you look at this particular highlighted section of the text, uh, I am marking it over here. Scientists have speculated that exomoons might provide a favorable environment for life, perhaps even better than Earth, right? So why is that? That's because they receive energy not only from their star, but also from the radiation related to the planet. Yes. So which is what is being told in A. They may have a favorable environment, yes, for life if they are in the habitable zone of their star. So this can be inferred from the passage from this part of the passage. Whereas the other three, if you look at the exoplanets, though through radiation can become the main source of energy for the exomoons, that's not given as the main source. It becomes an extreme answer for us. Nowhere in the passage is told that is the main source. Next, the primary mission of Kepler was to identify signs of life in the atmospheres of exomoons. See, we've already taken here, right? It's to identify planets. No one talked about exomoons. So it's a reference mismatch. Okay, so it becomes a inconsistent answer itself. Is it right? Yeah, inconsistent answer itself. And what about this? The moons of Jupiter and Saturn may show signs of life despite being away from the sun. Now, again, we are not entirely sure if it's Jupiter itself. Okay, we are saying Jupiter-like planets. And why are we saying Jupiter-like planets? Because these are gas planets. Okay, we're not entirely sure if it is these planets that we are looking at. So this becomes a partial scope choice for us. All right. So the right answer is A. So the second question says, which of following statement best states the main idea contained in the last paragraph of the passage. Now, see, this kind of simplifies the question for us because here we have to look at only the last paragraph now. And we do not need to understand the entire thing. But please remember that even if it's the last paragraph or whatever it is, it should still be in sync with your main idea for the entire passage. Okay. So if you have a small look at these sentences that I've highlighted in the last paragraph, our follow-up studies will help inform future telescope design so that we can detect these moons, study the properties, and look for signs of life. Yes. So that is the main idea that we get from this particular paragraph. Okay, from here to here. Okay. So according to that, what is it? This is about follow-up studies, right? That means further studies, right? So further studies are required to find planets and habitable zones which may have exomoons showing potential for life. So after we study about these moons or detect these moons, then we can look if they have potential for life. So that's very clearly the kind of idea that we are deriving out of this particular passage. Now, whereas if we go to the third question, because the following statements can be inferred from the information provided in the passage, basically talks about the entire passage as a whole. But over here, the scope has been reduced because of the options he has given us. Okay. So according to the options, if we look at it, Kepler's observations have not been instrumental to the future in star studies, can be taken off, clearly invalidated because we have seen that, they have gone and potential life failure they have searched. Okay. And depending on that only, we are doing the other things also. Database of exomoons has been created to find signs of life. Now, database of exomoons have been, yeah, we've not yet created that database, right? The whole point is that future studies could come up and create that database. So C also cannot be taken. Planets at Earth, 3 times the radii of Earth, have shown proofs of life. Again, he's not said 3 times. This becomes very partial scope. He said more than 3 times. Yes. So keeping these three things in mind, we can negate B, C, and D and take A as our answer from this part of the passage. So exomoons have a better chance of having life than some exoplanets. Again, he's given the justification of why. Okay. Yeah. Now, as for the fourth question, the author of the passage is most likely to agree with which of the following statements. Again, I would go with A, and that is giant planets have the potential to host moons capable of supporting life. That comes straight away from the first paragraph altogether. Okay. Whereas the other three do not really come through the passage. Future telescopes can be designed on the basis of potential of the planets to host life. Again, that's not why. So the cause and effect has been mismatched. Only Kepler becomes a what is this extreme answer. Okay. And Jupiter-like rocky planets can serve as gas giants and support lives on the exomoons. Here on their exomoons would be fine, but on any exomoon could not. Okay. So that is why we are going to go with A as our correct answer. Right. So let's go to the second passage. In the second passage, they're basically talking about the differences between Spain and the Britain's army and how the Britain army had overpowered Spain's armada. They've also given us a bit of details about why the fight started and why it propagated or continued, and at the end, what the consequence was. I mean, there's a stark difference between why the fight started and the consequence of the fight. But yes, all over, it's about the Britain's victory on Spain. Okay. So, what was the main reason for the conflict between Spain and England over here? If you please take a look at the first part. Okay, the conflict had existed between Spain and England since 1570s. England wanted a share of the wealth that Spain had been taking from the lands it had claimed in the Americas. So basically, Spanish people had some lands in the Americas and they were getting a lot of wealth from there. England wanted a share of it. That was the primary reason. So all this, drama started there. Okay. So according to that, I think the one sure short answer is A. Correct. Now, when we're going to the second question, how does the passage give evidence of Britain's military might against the Spanish Armada? Okay. So again, if we are looking at the passage, we can see that over the period of these three paragraphs. Okay. So over here, I think England's retaliation starts over here. Okay. So sorry. Where is it? I think England's retaliation starts over here and the battle ends over here. So this will be the scope of our consideration. Now, in this scope, if you look at it, the British fought with the Spanish people. Okay. They did not defeat them in a day. It happened gradually. So the first point that you need to know is that it was gradual. Yes, the Spanish people who thought they were very strong, they were first weakened. Yes, their entire might was crumbled and then they were defeated. So according to this process, the one answer that fits is B. So our right answer will be B. When we go into the third question, according to the passage, King Philip did all of the following to make sure his fleet was indestructible, except. Now, again, so this becomes for us a specific detailed question only. Okay. Because clearly he has mentioned exactly what's been done by King Philip and what has not been. Okay. So he's done everything. He's recruited number of soldiers and sailors, and so over here, where is it? 19,000 soldiers and 8,000 sailors he has recruited. Yes. And then he put ammunition on a lot of his ships. That means, see, he's saying although some of his ship flagged, but that means most of his ships had, no? Yes. And what was the third thing? The third thing is that constructed and marshaled many sailing vessels. Yes, which is also we are getting from the same part. But the one thing that we don't see in this passage is that he's taken help of the Portuguese people. Okay, all we know is that he set sail from Lisbon. We never know that he formed an alliance with the Portuguese people, right? So this becomes a partial scope choice. Okay, so this is the one that we cannot expect. Next part, which of the following aptly summarizes the passage? So this, in our opinion, should be the summary. So main idea of the passage kind of a question. Yes. So what's the main idea over here? The Spaniards wanted to establish the dominance over the English people. That's the whole part. Why? Two reasons. A, the Spain was trying to control, or the Spaniards were trying to control Americas at that time, which was not acceptable by the Britons. Second reason is the religion. So we can see from the passage that Spain was a Roman Catholic kind of a country, and British people were more of Protestants. So that kind of a religious difference also ensured that the Spaniards would want to show dominance onto the Britons and convert the people back into Catholics. So over here, we can see that despite a lot of efforts, the Spaniards could not establish the superiority over the English, kind of summarizes what all has happened. Yes. So if we are looking at the Spanish Armada faced a humiliating defeat, that's again a partial scope choice. The Spanish Armada scattered becomes a partial scope choice. And King Philip's dream of creating an indestructible naval army was brutally quashed because King Philip's dream was not about creating a naval army. His dream was to where I think in the passage also he's you know given it very clearly here. So King Philip II of Spain wanted to claim the throne and to make England a Catholic country again. So his idea was that his idea was not to make an army or and defeat the others. So according to that, I think the best fitting answer is A. Yes. So third passage, which was easy again, is about knowledge and how San Tzu is talking about encouraging the learning. Okay. So in this passage, we see that, there's a purpose to learning by San Tzu. And he says that a person who is learning or who's educated can be clearly distinguished from a person who is not educated. They make the right choices. Education makes them virtuous. Education also provides a lot of how do I say, self-esteem and psychological well-being. Uh, Also, he talks about how friends or other people in your life influence you and your education and the entire life. Okay, he says that someone who has good friends moves forwards, whereas someone who has bad ones do not. Okay, so basically, it's about the encouraging of education. Now, which of the following statements is true according to the passage? Now, one becomes a gentleman only through persistent study and hard work and being a student again. Over here, because he says only, this becomes an extreme answer. Okay. Creative thinking is of no value as study is more important than. Now, this is not given in the passage at all. Right. So he's talked about creative thinking, but he's not said that it's of no value. So this becomes an opposite answer. Education gives people a sense of right and wrong is again stated over here in this particular part. So this is one answer choice that we can take. And what about D? It's difficult to tell whether someone is educated or not. No. So this again, it's difficult to tell whether someone is not educated or not based on personality and actions. Again, we cannot clearly say because oh wait, one minute. We can clearly say because in this part only here it's given, right? You can tell from the personalities and even their actions. So it's not difficult for us to tell. So the right answer will be C. Next question talks about which of the following statements best describes what the author means when he states bad company corrupts good morals. Now, please know that when you have only in the passage, that does not become a extreme answer in the options. Okay. Why am I saying this? I think you must have already guessed. Yeah, you must have already guessed. That's because when we are talking about bad company corrupting good morals, that means only people with good friends will be going forward. The other ones are going to get corrupted and they're not going to move forward. Okay. Now, this part here, a gentleman will only be friends with a few men is not given. So, this only is not the reason we are rejecting this. This is inconsistent. Okay. So, D will be a right answer. Now, if we are looking at this question, its following statement about learning is asserted by the author in the passage. Very clearly, we can see that C is asserted in the passage. Okay. Just learning is required is not told. One needs to know strategies and use well-defined approach is not told. Yes. Negative mindset is the greatest impediment is not told. He said that if you think positively, it will be better. Okay. But he's not told you that negative mind is a greatest impediment. Yes, about negativity and all, where does he speak? He speaks over here, if you look at it. Yes, what does he say? Negativity inside us attracts negativity from all around us, and to act towards people in the wrong way and just generally puts a leash on the progress. Okay, but he's not telling you that it's the biggest impediment. Okay, so this part makes it an an inconsistent choice. Yeah, so the right answer over here will be C. I think the last question of this passage is about each of the following is emphasized by the author in the passage, except. If you look at the last line of this particular passage, the first three options are kind of broken down from there only. Every moment is an opportunity to learn something new is our first thing. It's up to you to decide what you learn, and what you learn is the second thing, and whether or not to take this lesson to the root to influence is the third thing. Okay, so this part is A. This part comes with the option B, and this part covers the option C. Right. So the one part that's not in any of this sentence is D. So the right answer should be B. Now, when we are looking at this particular passage, again, it's not extremely complicated, but yes, somewhat complicated. It's a moderate passage. We can clearly say that in this passage, the author is going into a philosophical rambling about what the mind is, and whether the mind is a product of your body, or is it a product of the extended aspect of your body, right? Now, in that, how do I say? Yeah, in that spirit, if we were to look at this passage, there are two people. Okay, one is this guy called Clark, whose opinion is being spoken about. These people are using, right? So this Inga and Otto, the basically two sides of the coin. Both are using the argument is that both are using some sort of thing in order to remember or extend cognition. And Clark basically says that one is not really different from the other. It's just that the way they are using these resources are different. Okay. Further on, we also see that Clark is one of a very, very, how do I say, established or renowned philosophers who's been quoted and cited a lot of times. And his research has also led to a development of various items in the fields of AI and what else? AI, robotics, linguistics, and psychology. Okay. So these are the main points from your passage, right? So first question says, which of the following statements best describes or best presents Clark's views? Now, obviously, as we've seen from the passage, what is Clark saying? Clark is basically saying that there are a lot of things which help us think. It's not your mind alone. There could be notebooks, there could be phones. Like I could ask you for the time, and you may say that You know what the time is, but then you'll have to refer to your watch. So the cognition is not specifically on the level only at our mind or our body, right? So the tools will be helping us. So that is the kind of answer that we should be looking at. When we are looking at B, detectable and non-penetrative device, again, it's not been mentioned about non-penetrative devices because hearing aids and all could be penetrating devices too. Okay, so it's a partial scope choice. An individual small world is a part of harmoniously synchronized larger system of which he is unaware. Again, although this option seems very philosophical, has nothing to do with what we are talking about in the passage. D, every individual's thought process is dominated by the interpersonal and neuroelectrical harmony. Yeah, this sounds very true to be the answer, but we have not actually spoken about the neuroelectrical harmony. Okay, so which is why answer would be A. Yes, so the second question says, which was following statements, if true, would not substantiate the fact that we are all cyborgs in the most natural way. So see, if the statement is true, then it should not substantiate. That means it should weaken the fact that we are all cyborgs. Okay. That means what? When can I say that something is weakening my argument? When it is going against the main idea or intimidating or, intimidating the main idea in some way. Yes. So throughout this passage, I've seen the author coming to me and saying that, external tools also form a part of your mind, right? External tools also form a part of your mind. That's what the author's been trying to tell me. If I want to negate this, what will I say? External tools do not form a part of your mind. Yes, which is clearly given only in option A. The idea of your pure thought was biologically incoherent, cognition was always embodied, right? So that will be our answer. Now, if you go into the third one, which are the following statements strengthen the author's opinions about Clarke's study. Now, if we are looking at these three statements carefully, cognition is a network of partly independent tricks and strategies that had evolved one by one to address various bodily needs. Obviously, this is not supporting the author's opinion. All right. Why? Because the author is not talking about all of this being independent. He's talking about all of this being an embodied thing. If a person's thought was intimately linked to her surroundings, then the destroying a person's, again, it's not been spoken about. If certain kinds of thoughts require devices like paper and pens, then the kind of poverty that deprived these be labeled as rehabilitating as brain lesion. Very extreme answer, and again, not spoken at all in the passage. So basically, none of these statements, okay, is giving me some kind of strengthening. So my answer will be D. Now, last question of the passage is what, according to Clarke, is true about Igna and Otto. Now, obviously, both of these guys, okay, need assistance for their thought process. One is taking that assistance from the mind, one is taking the assistance from the, uh, what do you say, notebook or something. But both of them are taking assistance, right? So the answer B, as both of them are entwined, that means linked with various things for assisting their thought process, they are same, which is what we are looking at in the entire passage, that there's not much of a difference between Igna and Otto, right? So the right answer will be B. Right. So hit it off with the verbal ability section. The first question is it's an odd man out. Yes, wherein the four sentences that we are going to choose to form a paragraph are going to be these. And in this particular order, if you look at the sentences 1, 5, uh, 3, and 4, okay, then we are getting a passage that talks about how unskilled we are at communication, though we have language, okay, but we are not able to choose our words properly. Yes. So here, a lot of people might ask, although we, and why is although we are the first thing? Now, the point being, we are not really looking at although, we're looking at how gift of language is there with us and their research that's leading to it. Because the other three sentences are only going to talk about that. So having said this, the one odd man out is two. Right. So this question is about the para summaries. Yes, and the paragraph reads as punishment in society is typically seen as a method to correct the fracture of societal harmony. That means if the societal harmony breaks, we have to put punishment so that there will be more societal harmony. This fracture occurs when there is a threat to the shared values, morals, norms, and identity of the group and or society. The state has regulated society's shared norms and values, and those who commit these infractions subject to the degrees of punishment. So basically, what happens? There's someone who has already said these, and those who are not, you know, following these are given a punishment. So apart from that, other than punishment being a method of correcting threats to the social harmony, okay, punishment can also reveal the relationship between how actors, institutions, administration tactics, and social mechanisms create society, more specifically, how it establishes and perpetuates inequality among people. Okay, so there are two basic ideas. What is punishment? Basically, what and why of punishment. And the second idea is specifically about, uh, what also does it do, right? So that is clearly stated in the first answer. If you're looking at answer number one, punishment has a role to play in not only correcting the threats to societal harmony, but also it helps in understanding how a society is formed and what causes inequality, which is at the last part of the paragraph, right? So your answer will be one. When you're looking at B, several states have used punishment as a method. It's not really told which states have done what. So it's an out of scope answer. The role of punishment in correcting fractures and creating institutions that establish uh, now and perpetuate inequality, even though fundamental has not been realized yet again. We're not looking at whether the fundamental has been realized, and also it's again going to be an out of scope answer. Punishment is effective in implementing various degrees of control to effectively manage the relationship among different institutions uh, to maintain equality. Now, yeah, so although this sounds like a correct answer, this sounds like a good answer, we have not seen about the different degrees of control that are, presented amongst different relationships. So we can chuck out D also. A will be the right answer. Yes. Now this is a para jumble question. Now in this para jumble question, the order should be as such. See, obviously in the fourth one, we are talking about DNA from the Bronze Age. Human skeletons indicate the black pig could have emerged as early as this much, long before the epidemic that swept through Europe in the mid 1300s. So this is kind of introducing to us the topic of, how DNA analysis is helping things, right? Now, from here, when we are talking about this thing, okay, a DNA from Bronze Age, so the research that's been done here. So that study basically should suggest that the disease did not spread with such intensity, but it may have driven human migration. Okay. So when we are looking at the part after this, it should be three. In the analysis of fragments of DNA from 101 Bronze Age skeletons for sequence of Yersinia pestis, the bacterium that causes disease, 7 tested positive. Okay, so basically this is the inception of that whole thing. Okay, and then he's saying that we have considered a study which tells us about how the disease has spread and everything. And then we talked about the third part, wherein the exact details are given about how many people are tested and all. And then we can talk about out of these 7 people, okay, the oldest sample from an individual has come somewhere around 5,000 years ago. So the right answer will be 4, 1, 3, and 2. Yes. Now this is another para summary, and this is one of the tougher para summaries. Though I do not think that going to be so easy. But anyway, so here he says for the each of the past 3 years, temperatures have hit peaks not seen since the birth of meteorology, and probably not for more than 110,000 years. So the amount of carbon dioxide in the air is at its highest level in the 4 million years. This does not cause storms like Harvey. There have always been storms and hurricanes along the Gulf of Mexico, but it makes them better and more powerful. Okay, as the seas warm, they evaporate more easily and provide energy to storm fronts. As the air above them warms, it holds more water vapor. For every half a degree Celsius in warming, there's about a 3% increase in atmospheric moisture content. Scientists call this Clausius-Clapeyron equation. This means that the skies fell more quickly and have more to dump. The storm surge was greater because sea levels have risen 20 centimeters as a result of more than 100 years of human-related global warming, which has melted glaciers and thermally expanded the volume of seawater. Okay, so now if we are looking at this particular thing, we can see that obviously global warming is uh, talked about, and we have also seen that how the rise in sea water levels is an effect of how this global warming has taken place. Now, once there's more global warming, the more is the rise in temperature of the seas, more is the evaporation. If more is the evaporation, more is the water that's going into the clouds. And then if more is the water that's flowing into the clouds, more will be the water that will be coming out, right? So all this can be actually pointed down to option C. Global warming melts glaciers, resulting in seawater volume expansion, which is given by the 20 centimeters thing. This enables more water vapor to fill the air above faster, and thus modern storms contain more destructive energy, right? So right answer will be C. Now, a lot of people have might have the question, why not use the name Clausius-Clapeyron equation and all? It's not really required. That's not an idea, right? That's a fact. We don't really need to look into facts when we are considering the para summary. We just need to understand what is given as an idea behind that fact. All right. The next one is about a para jumble. Okay. So here these 4 sentences talk about how Roman Empire flourished and how the Roman builders were making different things. So obviously, we can say that first one is not the first statement, because with these benefits is what it starts with. So which benefits, if we have to look at it, then we can very clearly see that the benefits are given in the second option. Romans were impressive builders, and some of the structures built by Romans still stand upon the, uh, up to this day. So with these benefits, what can we see? Roman Empire flourished and sparked a golden age of technological advancements. Actually, no, we can't take two and one together. We know that the Romans were impressive builders. Yes, so we can go with the third statement next instead of the first statement. Romans were impressive builders. Some of the structures built by Romans still stand up to this day exhibit. Large infrastructure was one of the fundamental aspects that allowed Roman Empire to maintain an expansive territory. So he's basically, we can go ahead and tell about, why this large infrastructure was there and how did Romans actually build most of these structures. Then comes roads allowed for the free movement of goods, information and troops, and the sewers and freshwater systems enabled the growth of large population. Now, okay, so with this, if we are looking at you know the services that were coming, then we can think about these as the benefits, right? So naturally, out of these 4 statements, 4 and 1, will be okay. 4 and 1 will be concomitant. Now, is it 3, 2 or 2, 3? That's the question. And about that, I think 2, 3 will take the spot over 3, 2, because in 3 is talking only about the large infrastructure, right? So why do we need infrastructure if we have the builders? So in cause and effect state, we can go with the answer as 2, 3, 4, 1. Next one is a odd man out question. So over here, I think this is one of the simplest questions I've seen in most of the mocks, because obviously all the five are talking about the same kind of topic. But if you just read the statements 1, 2, 3, 4, they align themselves into a paragraph, right? So the only option that we can mark over here is 5, where the para jumble method of this would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yes, so this question is again a para jumble wherein the 4 sentences are given. And here we are talking about, how job stress is causing different changes and different problems. Okay, so if you look at this particular para sentences, set of sentences, the first sentence and the third sentence is talking about the job stress or work stress. The second sentence is talking about, who all or the scope of it. And the fourth sentence is ideally talking about the cause or the effect of it, right? So without actually going into much detail, we can decide whether or not, so we can actually decide what the first and the last sentences will be. We can easily say that 2 will be the first sentence and 4 will be the last sentence, because 4 is giving me what? 4 is giving me the effect of altogether, and this is giving me the scope of altogether. Now, the only confusion that comes is whether it is 1, 3 or 3, 1. Okay. Now, for us to look at that, one says work stress poses risk to physical health of the employee and consequently influences the health of an organization. And 3 says job stress in the early stages can rev up the body and improve performance in the workplace. Now, obviously, we cannot look at any of this as a concomitance. Then what should we do? We have to start considering, is 3, 4 a better choice, or is 1, 4 a better choice? Now, in this case, if you look at it, we have 4 starting with although, correct? Since 4 starts with although, what is this happening? This is showing me that the one previous or the one before 4 should be positive, because here it is eventually decline, which is a negative. Amongst 1 and 3, the positive statement is 3. So the answer should be 2, 1, 3, 4. Okay. I think yes. So this is another para summary wherein we are getting its in most basic form. Long-termism claims. Yes. So this was a para summary that I was telling was difficult. So here, if you look at this, let me read through the para actually to tell you which parts are important. Now here in its most basic form, long-termism claims that the best option is that which is best for the far future. So basically he's saying, look at the future and plan. Okay. Yeah. The thesis is typically justified by 4 premises, 2 empirical and 2 evaluative. Again, we don't need to understand what are empirical. Empirical are by proof. Okay. Evaluative is that I do something and then I evaluate the the consequence of it. The first premise states that there are, in exception, an extremely large number of future people. Second premise states that we ought to adapt a zero rate of pure time preference or impatience. That means we should be, we need to evaluate, we need to be patient such that we do not discount the well-being of those future people. Third premise claims that there are always ways which we can alter our established practices that will be predictably influence the well-being of these future people. So basically, he's only talking about how we can help the future people. And the fourth final premise is that the best option is that which maximizes well-being. Okay, so understand this. All of the passage is basically talking about the well-being of the whole of the passage is talking about the well-being of the people. Okay, what kind of people? The future kind of a people. All right, but instead of that, when we are looking at these four premises, what's it? It's about collaborative efforts. Yes, uh, opposed to short-term efforts, and we have to look at both practical. Yes, this practical is what imperative. Okay, and the second one is evaluative. So based on these two things, we'll have to prioritize the well-being, which is given as the option B. Okay. All right. So that will be our correct answer. Now, for us to 1 minute. Right. So now when we are looking at this particular parajumble, we can see that this should start with the statement 3, which is the most generic one because we were talking about which kind of books to be read, right? So naturally 3 will be the first one. Now we have to go with why we have to, read this or why we have to approach this multiple times. And he's giving you all the reasons in the statement 1. So the answer will be 3, 1. Now amongst 4 and 2, if you carefully look at it, over here in 2, he's saying that when you read it for the first time, you get a cloudy idea. That means not a clear idea. And here in the 4, he's saying then you read it again, right? So clearly 2 and 4 will form a concomitant pair, and your answer will be 3, 1, 2, 4. All right. So with this, we come to an end of this mock. Thank you very much. Have a good day.